Hello everybody, welcome back to the Norries podcast. Before we get into it there, we just want to remind people that we're supported through Danny Donovan at quickminutes.com.
Yeah, Danny's a very good friend of both myself and James. He comes from the north side as well, and he grew up locally, and he's been a massive supporter of the podcast and both myself and James since we actually began. And he has his own company called Quick Minutes now, and
quickminutes.com is a meeting management application for semi-formal and formal meetings. And look, if you want to know more about that, quickminutes.com, and supporting Danny's supporting us. So if you're interested in that, check them out and enjoy the rest of the podcast. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Norries podcast. I am your host James, and I'm joined by my good friend Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
Sean is on the switcher. Say hi, Sean.
How's it going?
And Derry Desmond is the guest today. How are you, Derry?
I'm alright considering.
Derry's a right Cork name, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. True, and don't go there with my history. Very Republican. That's another day.
Listen, this podcast is all about going into the history.
I heard that. That's what worries me.
Go on. Do you want to go a little bit into the... Are you from a Republican background?
My great-grandfather was, and Desmond's of Clanmult would have been my family. So, but my history on my father's side is very vague. My father never spoke about it. Okay. My father got MS when I was 13, 14. And...
Where was he from?
Originally from Watergrass, but his family would have been from Dungorney. But all that was Milton Dungorney,
Yeah.
All the one. And I suppose he never spoke about it, even though he lived to 83. Sick all his life. I looked after him. Thankfully, I did the right thing. One of the right things I did in my life. Made sure he was looked after till the day he died. And but he never spoke about his past. But his funeral, there was people came and,
Yeah.
There was out of the woodwork, as we say.
Yeah.
That we never knew existed, and we left them hard there a bit. We had our bit as a family, and they did what they had to do as...
Did you get a bit of history on him when he passed from people?
Not really, because he helped me through a part of my life. He became my best friend, even though he got sick when I was very young, but we became very close. I suppose I became very close when my marriage started breaking down, which is an open book for me.
Yeah.
And he was my counsellor. One-liners. He just said to me, like, Burr, my ex-wife, he'd go to, she's a good mother, bad wife. You're waiting for the next bit. 3 hours later, you're sitting down and you're still waiting for the next bit of advice. Once the kids are happy, it is what it is. All these one-liners, and we became very good. And very good friends. He was my therapist, but he was a good man in that way, but we became very close. He was very clued in. Very, how to put it, my mother was everything to him.
Yeah. Where was your mum from?
Watergrass, that's why we...
So you're fucking born and reared up?
I was born and reared in Youghal.
Fuck away with that.
Yeah.
Bit of a trek from Watergrass Hill.
Burgess filling station, my father would have built it.
Yeah.
He got MS when I was 12, this 12 was 13 because he couldn't do it anymore.
That's where he got. I'll bring you two of you right back there for 1 second, okay?
Right.
Right, Derry, you're living in Africa now, aren't
Yes.
you? Okay. What do you do in Africa?
I volunteer.
You volunteer?
Yes.
Right. So we can just get a little bit of context here, and we'll go into your story.
All right.
We'll bring you right back a small bit.
All right.
So you were born and bred in Watergrass Hill.
Right, I tell you where my African dream came from. At 15 years of age, I was sitting down in my front room with my father, watching Live Aid. One of the very few Saturdays I wasn't out drunk. I started work at 13, and I said I'm going to save the world, 50, brash out, like. Half a country boy, half a city boy, because I worked in the city, so I thought I was above everyone else in the country. Like.
Were you a big, strong man?
No, tall, skinny, lanky fucker, out every week getting locked drunk, pardon the French. Don't remember my youth from 13 to 19. I even met a girl last night and didn't even know who she was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it all came back to, I had very good friends who minded me, but they were harmless days for us because there wasn't, what's out there now wasn't there. You might get a bit of hash, you're lucky, but I couldn't smoke because I just couldn't handle it, thankfully. So just drink. And I had a very good boss, and he was very good to me, and he kept me in the straight and narrow. Simple rules there, you come into work Monday, you don't touch it till Friday. I don't care what you do Saturday and Sunday. It's oblivion then. But got this mad dream at 15, I'm going to save the world. By 21, I was married to my best friend. 3 years later, we had our first child with 3 kids. Our marriage broke down. It happens. Both of us. Not one of us, both of us. And we worked out a solution within 2 years. We became good friends again. I lived in one house, she lived in the other. I saw my kids 7 days a week. We had dinner together. We did everything together. And I suppose 4 years apart, it probably came out that people realised we were separated.
You have a good relationship with your
We were
ex.
going to our kids' matches together, soccer matches.
Oh, that's
No one
fantastic.
knew the difference.
Yeah.
But then I went to a very dark place personally, for some reason or other. It just happens. I'd say because I had a business, it went well up. I lost thousands. Lost our home. I bought a home, gave it to my ex-wife, set them up. Kids are okay, oblivious to it. They know all the story now, but they're oblivious to it at the time. But we support each other like that, you know. So that's basically my dream. My dream was putting a long finger, job after job. No, first job was 16 and a half years. Went out on my own, fell apart after 2.5 years. Probably
What were you doing, Derry?
flowers, qualified florist.
Florist. Lovely.
Anyone in Norries would know me. That's flower boy around the cold case. Long hair, dressed like a hippie. You know, there were times to get
Did you
away.
grow all your own
No,
flowers?
importing flowers.
Oh, did you?
Cut flowers. And the company I work with now is no longer in existence. They closed down a year ago. I was talking to my ex-boss, I think last year, and he was telling me he's 80 odd, time to move on, retire. There was no one to take it over. And then from there, I ended up in Atlantic Home Care for a year or two. Found that hard. Then went to McMahon's Build-Up Providers, where I spent an awful lot of years. And that's where I gained qualifications off the field, because I left school at 13. Got little degrees here and qualifications here, and I was managed from, eventually I became a buyer. And in between all that, my weight ballooned because I was drinking 4 cans of Coke a day. To the outside world, I was the perfect man. Ex-wife, happy kids, but inside I was in turmoil. And look at God, I did a climb for Irish Cancer. I did through work. Hated it with a passion.
Were you overweight this time when you went on that walk?
And we did it because I had to do it. I was a manager. Work. You had to get out there and, you know, lead the forces. Thought I'd die coming off it. A week later, John Lennon drags me out to do Cran Tool.
You must be the 100th person, I'd say. John Lennon's after dragging from Corn Tool against their will.
And to be honest,
But all in good faith, though.
Yeah.
Every single one, I've no doubt.
at the time I hated it. It was the worst thing ever happened to me. Couldn't walk for 2 weeks. Couldn't lift my arms for 2 weeks.
How long did it take you to go up and down?
Look, it was horrendous that day, the rain, and I never knew the ladder wasn't the waterfall till I went down maybe a month later with a friend I met in the climb with John Mulcahy, who I became good friends with. And I went down and I said, where are we going? This way we were the last day. I said, there was a waterfall. That was the rain, Derry. And 3 months later, I did Everest Space Camp with another friend of ours, friend of John's as well, Graham, who does these things. And that's where I found my soul, my mojo. I got my buzz back. I got a bit of altitude sickness at Namshi Bar. I hope I pronounce it right now, but it's Namshi, I think it's called. I was very sick going up. I said nothing. I didn't care if I died in the mountain. That's the mentality I was in. No, I had to do this. It was like my step to better my life, whatever I set in my head. And got up, got down, lost the weight in the space of a week and a half because of altitude, not because of being a hero or anything. Came back, looked terrible, but I found my soul. If I can explain it, that's the only way I can say I found my soul. 6 months later, I ended up out in Kenya, going to a friend of mine who had a charity there, and that's where I am now.
What does walking do for people? What did it do for
me?
You were in a really difficult place in your life. You started doing a bit of walking. Next, your life started to change.
You know what? You talk to yourself. You answer yourself. You fight with yourself. And when you're fighting with yourself and you're talking to yourself, and you're out here in the fresh air, it's a lot safer place than doing it in a dark room, which I was in a dark room many a night, fighting myself. But at least out here, nature has a great way of healing you. I know if anyone knows me as a young fella growing up to this point, I wouldn't be a nature lover. I am now. I think nature, cells, the world, people, we're all interconnected. Probably back to where I was as a 15, 16-year-old, looking at Live Aid, where I knew I could change the world. No, then I was changing the whole world, but now I know I can make a difference in the world. Now,
Your story is very similar to a guy we had on Myself and James done live. Pat Falvey. Remember Pat got up the top of Corntool and he said he was going to climb Mount Everest. And he did.
Well, I didn't even, when I got the Corntool, I just want to get off and cry. Mount Everest was the farthest thing from mind. Get off and just cry and never again do it. Coming off that mountain, never again. I did it, of course, because they dragged me out, like. But in between all that, I was always been actively involved in voluntary stuff in Watercress. Soccer clubs. We did a mini live in Watercress Hill called Hillfest. I was part of the tree in that. But once they had a total disaster, didn't make money, but it built an all-weather in the village, in the school, and did what I had to do. But all that helped me build up my confidence as a person, I suppose. Because I used to work in the business world, where shirt and tie, everyone had high qualifications. I left school at 13. I had what I would call the gift of the gab, as they would say in work, and I learned how to trade from the traders on the Gold Coast, the best teachers you can get. Buy this, sell this, make your margin, make your money. Simple as, not rocket science. And that's how I got the job I got. And I said I got qualifications later on in life through work. But I suppose, why am I in Kenya now? Following my dream as a 15-year-old. When I went to Kenya, I saw poverty like I've never experienced before, and saw how organisations are run. The organisation I went to were run very well, actually.
What kind of an organisation was it?
Just run by a Cork guy, an organisation, run very well, very small, 3 or 4 people on it.
What did they do?
They show people how to farm, what I took on myself, and they also help people with disabilities. But I felt, do you know what, I could do this better. In my head, you think and I knew I could do something different, And I met Mary there, who's now my current partner, and we got talking, and I said, she was at a stage in life where she started that organisation with other people.
Mary's not Kenyan.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. And she felt she needed time for a fresh challenge, we call it. And I said, sure, look, we were talking away, and we were together, if you want to say together, like 13-year-olds. We're not like grown adults, you know what I mean? We're a couple, we're not a couple. Thousands of miles apart, like.
Yeah.
But we built up a lovely relationship together where I found that, look, for 14 years, Derry might as well have been a monk. I won't say a priest because they might play around, but monks don't. I was totally celibate. One lie.
Yeah.
Made a conscious decision in my life to raise my kids as best as I could. And I did. But we developed I felt I could trust someone for the first time ever. And it was a big thing for me to open up to another human being, especially a female human being, because I'd been hurt. And we did. And we started what we call Hail Africa. At the time, it was registered in Kenya as an NGO, not here, because it's harder to register charity here. And the following year, we were registered here. But I suppose that was in 2017-18. 2018 May, there was this big dam disaster in Salai. We just opened our clinic. I was funding the clinic through work here. Clinic, tiny room, 9 by 9, 2 rooms. That's the size of it. And a dam burst in one of the plantation farms. And I'm in Cologne with work, wining and dining, doing these trips and buying and whatever.
Was this now for the construction company?
Yeah, for McMahon's.
Yeah.
They're across the quay here for me. I was there for years, and I was their retail buyer. And
might be able to get me trade price off them, something.
no problem. I bought a contact still, no fair here. I mean, buying stuff still this week from more people since I come back. I'm after putting about 10 orders there. I should be getting commission. But I would say that now he's still very good to me behind the scenes. So we won't go give a note. He's not giving me commission. He's good to me. But I suppose I am. I'm losing my train of thought.
The dam.
Oh, the dam. Yeah.
Was there like
but
a heavy
when I lost my
rain?
train of thought, I was in Cologne. I suppose I panicked. Right. Number one, I couldn't contact Mary. Got a text. Dam burst. The hope we survived. That's what I got. Something short like that. And I'm in Cologne and trying ringing in and texting her and nothing. A day and a half to just under 2 days later, I get a text from her. We're okay. In the meantime, I'm looking up the Kenyan channels as best as I can in Italy, and I'm finding one. And I see a picture of her being interviewed, and I go, she's alive. And so that night, she saved with other people. Now, was she coordinated just by default? Our doctor ran out of clinic, everyone ran, she stayed. She stayed. Why? Because she didn't know where to run to. She didn't go saying, I'm
The
a hero.
home.
No, she was there a couple of weeks. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know where anyone was in the dark. Like, didn't know where to go this way or this way. Generally didn't know where to run to for safety. So she stayed, and everybody ran to her for help. Kids, everything's come in, you know, drowned, covered in muck, and I'm watching this on TV, and my head is splitting. I'm on the way back home to Cork, and we got talking, and we just said, "Geez, you know," cried. Won't lie. I was the first time in my life I was outside of my kids. I cried over someone.
Yeah.
So I said, Jesus, I must really like this girl.
Must be love.
Yeah, must be love, the song goes.
Have Mary got her own kids?
No. No, she, no kids. And we, you know, I said, get home. I have 3 kids here, and I tried to give them the best I can. Thankfully, they're my best friends. I did something right anyway, and I get on with their
I can
mother.
see why.
I don't know about that, but
I can see why.
I was very active in their lives growing up, and sometimes I'd say they were delighted I went away because I gave them a bit of space. If they had tiddlywinks today, I was watching it. If there's something there, I was there. If they had a school match, I was there. Sometimes you're like your father, would you just go away and you just grew up without you being there? You know, I was always there. But that was my way of staying involved, you know. But my youngest lad says to me, like, I'm doing my leaving cert, sitting it like. I said, yeah, I want to give you the opportunity. Well, I'm doing it for you, Dad, like, full stop. He doesn't like school, like. So if you're waiting for me, you'll be waiting. So he says, I spoke with him, we used to have these family meetings every month. And he says, we think you need to go. You're not here no more. You're heartbroken, like, you know. And I suppose I was. I went to Christmas, just after Christmas. It's the weirdest feeling I ever had in my life.
Christmas, how long ago?
I went 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Going out just after Christmas, 27th or 28. I'm very bad for dates, no lads. I think it's Alzheimer's age, whatever. It's not, just bad for dates. But I'm good with money, don't worry about that. But I went out just after Christmas. I never cried so much leaving my kids for the first time. My youngest would have been 17, 18, Sean. And I never cried so much, but yet I never wanted to do something so much. I can't explain it. And I cried and I cried, and I went. And once I got to Kenya, it's like something went off. I missed him, but the tears stopped flowing, you know. And myself and Mary were there. We used to live in the Kuro at the time, which is here to Care, away from where our projects were. We're travelling out by Matatu, which is like a local minibus or a bike. And I suppose if we were doing that for a while, then we bought this plot of ground, I suppose, double the size of an average terraced house, you know, small plot, an eighth of an acre. And we built a mud house there. But in between all that, just to give a quick synopsis of, I suppose, Mary. Mary won this award from the President, HSC award, got it presented. And we'd be on the Matatu coming out, and they were saying, this Mary lives out here now, and she's rich and she's famous. She's sitting in the Matatu now with me, and we're paying €2 between us to try and get out. Because I went with the backpack on my back in 2 months' wages. I had nothing. My dream was to work for 5 years. Before that happened, I was living in a mobile home because I was scaling back and I was looking after my kids, and I wanted to put the money aside, but my mind wasn't here, so I left, you know. And I suppose that's how low profile she is. Everyone knows me, the white man coming into, and she's with me. That even
Scout.
Yeah, well,
Scout.
that's another story. That's in the last couple of months. But,
We'll have to tell that story, yeah.
but we're coming in to Salai, like, and everyone knows this is the white man that's married to Mary, like, you know, that's with Mary. Because if you're with someone in Kenya, you're married. It's not necessarily married, but you have a girlfriend, you're married.
Yeah.
Well, 9 to 10, they have a child 9 months later, because that's the way it works there. Like, kids are like cattle; they're the sign of wealth, which is a sad case of their affairs, really.
Yeah.
But so we were there, and people wouldn't even know, and they'd say to me, and the next thing the Matatu driver go, "That's Mary," you know, and they go, "Why is she in a Matatu?" Everyone thinks just because she got this award, she got money, you know. But to get money in Kenya and to get on in Kenya, you have to sell your soul. That means your body and things. If you're a female, being a woman in Kenya is very, very hard.
There's a lot of sex work.
It's you have to sell yourself to get to the top. There's a lot of, how they put it as well there, corruption goes on there. And
You said it's very poor. Describe the poverty, what you witnessed.
All right. You're walking to. I'll describe where we're living now, right? Because it's better than going back 5 years ago, where I am now. And where I am living now, we brought out volunteers this summer, and 1 or 2 of them wanted to do a home visit. I said, lads, 1 or 2 didn't, because I told them what they were facing, and they understood it. We'll go out here now. You'll walk into a 1-bedroom mud house, and it's kind of half rainy season at the time, so there's a bit of rain, so it was very damp. You walk in, there's 8 in the house. Father is no longer to be seen. Mother has a drink problem. Kids haven't eaten in 2 days. And we support them the best we can, give food, but we can only do so much, there's so many looking. If you're in a deal world, you make sure everyone was sorted every day. So they came in to see these kids here who haven't eaten in 2 days, sleeping on bags, like grain bags years ago. We had them here still, sleeping grain bags for mattresses. 1 set of clothes. So whenever we visit, we always bring food to people and stuff, and so they got food, they were delighted. And
What's the water situation there?
oh, there's water in Kenya, but it's like a cartel. Around us at the moment, there's clean drinking water. It's not coming to us because there's different factions in the community fighting. We've water on our farm, but it's not clean drinking water. But where our day centre is, which is 10 kilometres away, we give out 3,500 litres of clean drinking water a day.
And how do you make that clean? Do you put some formula?
Filters in it, I bought filters. The filters were actually sponsored by the Bond Secure sisters here in Cork. They sponsored the filters. We funded ourselves €70 a week to pump it. Like here, that's going to double because electricity is going up everywhere, so we'll be no different. But at the moment, it's €70 a week. And then if you have a power cut, you're using a Ginny, and we have the same problems. Just there, you don't have a social system where you get a dole or social welfare, you work or starve. When lockdown came, like the country lockdown, everyone was laid off. Everyone's hungry. Everyone's coming to us for support. And like,
How was COVID around that area?
Where I am, none.
Was there no COVID?
Oh no, but the whole country got locked down because
Yeah.
of COVID in the cities. Like, and
But where you are, it was
No.
like you didn't have that difficulty of trying to look after people.
with COVID, no, but the restrictions and the guidance of COVID made life impossible for people. So like around us is all these big flower farms. Picture, the old African movies years ago when you see them in the American ones, it's plantations. Exact same scenario, but they're not slaves, as in being whipped. They're slaves through getting paid slave labour, money. Just a different form of slavery, really. That's what I call it. No. You can argue all I want about these guys, but if they ever moved out, these companies, they're better than nothing.
Place would starve completely.
And it's just hard at times to get your head around it, but over a while you just accept it and you say, you know what, we'll try and get them better working conditions. And we did after a couple of months meeting these guys, and now if you have a baby, you don't get sacked. Now if you're sick, you don't lose your job. These little guidelines. Now that's all law anyway, but just because it's law doesn't mean it happens. And most people over there are employed casually, so if you're employed casually, you don't really exist. They have this farm has 3,000 odd workers, 1,000 odd are full-time, the rest are casuals. So if you're a casual, basically, you have no rights. No rights at all. So we got them a little bit sorted.
Are these corporations then multinational corporations?
Oh, these companies now, this one is run by Indians, but they're based out of the UK. They're
Massive
billionaires.
company.
What we have and where we are is probably the smallest entity.
What's the type of raw material? Is it a raw material rich country, Kenya, or is it out of
It has its own oil,
has its own oil?
but they export it to be, what's the word, refined. And it comes back. Kenya's run by a handful of people who are what the Kenyans call them, Kenyan royalty. They call them royalty themselves. And you have this upper class. Sadly, we don't have a middle class. It's coming slowly in the likes of the cities, but in rural there isn't the middle class. And you have the poor. And the poor are forgotten about. And don't get me wrong, I see the struggles people have here. And Kenya's no different. But the only difference here is at least if you starve to death here, it's because you're not. It's because of pride, really, You won't go to penny dinners, or you won't go to the food, or say for instance the Paul. But there you don't have that option to go to someone, you know. And I just, you know, at times it gets very hard. I won't lie, I've cried many a night underneath, as I call it, the mighty African sky. I've many nights I thought about coming home because the poverty was too hard for me to comprehend.
Do people in Kenya look at you as like the dollar signs?
They did initially. Oh yeah, the white man has money. But then you see the white man build a mud house. I have a stone little house now. I have a stone house now, but I've evolved, thankfully. But I built a mud house. We lived in it for up to last Christmas. We moved in there during the summer to our house because we had volunteers coming, so we had to give them some place. A small bit of luxury, like. They weren't going to come and still live in a mud house, and it's been 14 days with Derry with no hot showers and stuff, you know, so we got the little basics. I said, I'm privileged. I have a toilet, I have clean water, I have a hot shower if it's not too cloudy, my solar will work. I'm okay.
Has Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda kind of
It's still there in northern Kenya.
Is that near where you are?
No. Kenya's
Huge
Africa
area.
map, look at the map, multiply by 100 because the map is defaulted. There's a real map of the world which shows the scale of it. And if you look at the map, the northern hemisphere looks bigger. But actually the southern hemisphere is 3 times bigger than the northern hemisphere. Africa is huge. You could fit Europe, Russia, and a bit of China into it. That's how big the landmass is.
Jeez.
It's huge. So you need to look at Google, just a real world map. That's all it is. What a map world really looks like, and Africa is that long, not that long, and that wide, you know. It's huge. It's huge. So Kenya's huge.
And Kenya's over by the Horn of Africa and east by Ethiopia,
Yeah.
Eritrea.
You've Ethiopia, South Sudan, you've Somalia around it, you've Tanzania to one side, Uganda. Tanzania and Israel is reasonably okay. The rest of them all have their own little problems. So, but in defence of Kenya, it's the best of a bad lot. I'm very safe where I am. I can walk down the street any day. When I say street, no, I mean the middle of nowhere. But I can walk the roads, no fear, no worries. Safety is okay, bar when the elections were there a couple of weeks ago because the whole country felt unsafe, not just me. So it wasn't a personal thing, it was a country thing.
Yeah.
So, but you just keep a low profile for those couple of weeks.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, yourself and Mary, what you have
we
set up
do.
over there.
I'll give a little of the headings and then I'll divulge in if you want me.
Okay.
Well, we started our clinic and it's now running since 2017-18. It looks after the most vulnerable people in society and those who are affluent as well. They come to us now because we have a very good service and they pay for it. And those that can't will get treated for a nominal fee. A nominal fee will depend on the person. We say if you have malaria, the treat malaria is an average €25. And if you're struggling, we'll ask for whatever, €1, 50p. Some people might give €5, depending on, we know everybody. So we make a decision based on people's circumstances. So, but difference between us and everyone else is we treat you first. Every other clinic in Kenya, including the government clinics, you pay first. So no money, you die. And I give an example of that there. A couple of weeks ago, my partner Mary, we have a little baby boy, he's 10 weeks old this week.
Congratulations.
All good. After years of, it was planned, thankfully, you know, my age.
Congratulations.
I should be, have a grandchild, I should be giving up, but no.
Fair play to you.
Kids keep us young. But Mary suffers with this blood clotting issue, which we found out by default, which sorted out her infertility, not having kids. We balanced it and she was able to have kids. She had a lot of miscarriages over the years. But she got this bad turn there. Mick was two weeks old, let's say, so 7 weeks ago. Pneumonia. Then the third week, her doctor said, this is pneumonia. So we rushed her to hospital. And she'd blood clots in both her lungs. Hours within death. And here am I with Mick, who was, 3 weeks old in the car with me. Barbara, a little girl we've adopted, who's 2 years old, in the car with me. Bring her to the hospital, they won't leave me in, which is fair enough, kids at that hour of the night, so they're treating her. And the first thing they ask for is money. €500 deposit, in euro terms.
What?
Yeah, that's because the treatment was going to cost 1,500, $2,000, like. You know, they knew when they went in, this isn't going to be, this wasn't a white thing, like, this was just genuine, any Kenyan be told the same. Wasn't taking advantage of me, no. It was, so, put my car down, he went through, thank God. I said, she's in now. We don't have to worry about it for a couple of days. So they did her tests, got her better. But the moral of the story here is, if I didn't have the money, she would be dead now.
And that's probably people dying the whole time, so.
Yeah, we already had that discussion before I came over here last week. Imagine, Mary, if I went that day, and like many times we don't have the money. You know, look at God, I had it in the car when next or whatever. I had it. Because, like, if anyone knows, we're not a material person. We spend, we look after people, and look, if we would look at my bank account now, you would say, your man is nuts, he better off staying here and getting a job. Like, I think I won't say it, but it's embarrassing.
Doesn't matter anyway.
I know.
If your car was declined on the day, you were in trouble, like.
Big trouble. Big trouble.
But
Now,
you know, your own clinic, would you have been set up for something like that if it had happened to
No.
another lady?
no, we wouldn't have the equipment.
Okay.
We
So
wouldn't have the equipment.
it was
Like,
specialised equipment.
Oh,
that
and
was
don't get me
needed.
wrong, if you came here, you would have to go to CUH or to the Bonds.
Okay.
You wouldn't get it in the Mercy even. You wouldn't get it, you know. Like, if you picture Kenya, it's like Ireland. Kenya is like Ireland in the 1920s, 1940s, with technology. So you have to go to the one main hospital for where everything was. Like years ago, you want an MRI to go to Dublin.
Yeah.
Same principle. For an MRI, you got to go to this one hospital. Do you understand me? So you have all this, same thing.
Yeah.
So we were very lucky we had the money. And just giving that as an example, lots of people have that issue. They go to a hospital. When they come to our hospital and we do what we can, we treat it and we say, look, we've got to go to town. We pay for people if they're going for ultrasounds. We give them 1,000 shillings, which is a tenner. It's costing 20. We pay half. Thankfully, we have an ultrasound machine got now ourselves, thanks to the bonds. We just need to get a lead for it, but the lead is about €1,000 and we can't afford it at the moment. But when we get the lead, we're home and dry. We can treat these people. We'll bring out a guy once a week, do the scans for a fiver. We'll charge them a fiver. Then paying a tenner in town and save us a tenner. So we're paying a tenner in to get into town. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And that'll bring us, hopefully, because our clinic loses money, out of the red. Some bit maybe balancing where we're not losing so much, because we're losing a lot there. But it's not there to make money.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Do you get support from the government in Kenya?
Oh no. We haven't got a grant from even the Irish government, a grant from no one. Now people say, why would the Irish government give a grant? And I mean through Irish aid now, like, not the government itself.
Yeah.
We haven't got one. Probably because we're too small. We run a whole organisation for less than 100,000 a year. We have 19 Kenyan employees of all tribes and religions. We make a big point of that. It's more or less a 50-50 split down the middle of male and female. And people say, what do you need all the employees for? You have a doctor, a physio, and a lab technician in our clinic. That's one thing we do. Then we run this, I keep going now because I forget what we do. That's what we started with. We started with this group of adults who have disability. We were teaching them to become self-sufficient. And you might laugh at this, but the best thing that ever happened there was COVID. Because these people had to stand on their own because we couldn't meet them. So we broke them into pods of 10 and they're working away great. So they might have chickens, goats, and once they're making a living, but they're making a few pounds. These are all people with disabilities, adults. That's what we did. From there then, we evolved to our day centre. Our day centre, early intervention centre, is sponsored by Whistles, which are an small Irish charity, a friend of mine, and Caroline in Dublin. And they sponsor that. There we have 35 children who have disabilities, from Down syndrome to people being wheelchair bound, bed bound. I suppose these are kids, some have progressed to mainstream school, 2, 3 have gone to specialist schools, and the rest will probably stay with us. As one goes out, we bring one in. There's a waiting list there to come to us. All this is free, completely free. The kids get 2 meals a day. We pick them up and bring them back in my little van. I have a Citroen Berlingo. It carries, each time 16 kids in the van, it carries about 70 kids a day, over 220 kilometres between all our projects. It's wrecked. It's falling apart. I'm actually getting parts here at the moment, sponsored by a guy from he's very good to me, but he even said, Derry, like at this stage, you better not buy a new van. But you can't buy a new van because...
Wouldn't some company back here sponsor a van for you?
The van I have is sponsored by McMahon's.
And it's old, though, is it?
Oh, well, bringing that van in, 2019 when it came in, was hard. Now the laws have changed. You can import unless you import a vehicle through the recognised importers.
Okay.
So it isn't feasible financially. If I get a van here for nothing, they'll charge me 15-20k to bring it in. Then you have to pay your tax on it. You buy one
15 to 20,000 just to bring the van in.
Oh, yeah. Like vehicles over there, like 2010, we'll say car.
Yeah.
We use a Toyota Yaris. I actually heard one there last week to drive around because my van is in bits. It's worth 12 to 15k. 2010.
Over there.
Yeah.
Buy
Toyota
it for
Yaris.
about £2,000 here, yeah.
Not even.
Yeah, that gives an example of what they call vehicles.
Jesus, lads.
No, so vehicles there last a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, if you were a collector and you had money, go in and take out these old vehicles, bring them back here, and you would be minted like.
Do you know what? That makes so much sense. I remember a while back there, all the lads, the black lads around the place, they were buying up all the highest vans and the Land Cruisers. And they were breaking them down and putting them into containers and sending them back to Africa.
That's still happening.
Is it?
To Western Africa.
And I never realised, because a lot of the vans were actually in bits.
Yeah.
Right, but they were good, do you know? And I asked the guy one day, and he said, Timmy, this guy was from Ethiopia. He was in my class in the college. And he said, you would not believe the amount of money that they're making off these vans and jeeps that they're bringing back in. They're being bought for.
What they call them is they're built, they call them rebuilt. It's an industry in itself, rebuilding vehicles. And if you rebuild a vehicle in Kenya through these approved organisations, it's reasonable enough.
Because they don't have like the wealth in our country, so they're not like getting PCP finance for a 2022 car.
No.
So like what we used to do before we became a wealthy country is if something broke, you fixed it and you got the maximum mileage out of it until it was. Do you know what I mean?
But like my first car was a Datsun Bluebird, and so with galvanised sheets on the floor underneath my pedals. Do you know what I mean? You just got on with it, like you will. There was an incident in those days, you'd be locked up, like.
Yeah, I know.
We just did it. There was a crash in the back of it, and we did a bit of polyflare in it, and sure, it was never painted.
What about diesel and petrol? Where's that over there?
Expensive. The average daily wage is 250 to 3. I'm talking euros so people understand me. But we'll go we'll say 100 shillings is €1. But 100 shillings, a euro is actually 110 shillings. We'll go euro for euro just to make it easy, right? People don't get confused. So, price of fuel at the moment, petrol is 187
In Kenya?
in Kenya. Diesel is 167, right? Shillings. They're up to eyeballs in debt with the IMF. IMF control the fuel. They're up to eyeballs in debt. You got to remember, people earn €2.50 to €3
A day.
a day.
Oh, you're talking about, it's 180 for a litre of diesel or petrol over there for 1 litre.
Yeah.
And it's the same back here for the same. But back here, the average daily wage is 100, 120 euros.
You'd want that to yeah.
Over there, the daily income, the daily wage is between 150 and €2 a
No,
day.
it's €2.50 to €3 a day.
250 still.
That's for the unskilled, right? The unskilled. 99% of the population is unskilled.
Yeah.
The rich people around us earning €4 a day, right? They're skilled, they can drive a tractor. But there's only 4 tractors, you know what I mean? So they're skilled, as you would call skilled workers. And 90% of the workers, 99 even, are unskilled. How do they survive? They earn €50 a month because you have to pay taxes. And you're pay, on average, you might end up with €42, €43 after tax. So it's a fairly high rate of tax when you think you're getting €50, like. And to buy a bag of maize, which is the basic food there, will cost you €60-70, which will feed a family of 4.
How are people surviving then?
They're not.
Is there like
People eat
illicit
every
stuff going on? Like
people eat every second day. They eat one day, black tea for breakfast. It's not. That's how they survive.
is there a drug problem in Kenya?
Unbelievably where I am.
And what kind of drugs?
And I'm very rural. How rural am I? I'm in the Rift Valley. I'm the only real building around us. I built a nice, reasonably okay home. There's nothing around us.
Is it glue the drug over there or?
The drug is basically cannabis grown locally. Chanya, like pushing, made from maize. Telling you lads, you smell it, bloody head off you. I smelled it once. You've cat, thing you chew, which is actually legal.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
Legal.
yeah.
It's legal, so that's not illegal, but it has a fierce problem as well. Like.
What is cat?
It's grown on a tree leaf.
It's a leaf.
You would just chew it.
Sure, but it make you stoned.
What kind of stone? Like a
cannabis stone, I think, yeah.
Stone isn't that you won't sleep for 2 days, like.
You won't sleep for 2 days.
Won't sleep.
Oh, all the drivers eat it. The truck drivers.
It's like a stimulant, so
Yeah,
like.
keep going, like you see the eyes. You walk down the street, fella, if he's on cat, you see the different cannabis, fella's relaxed, and fella's on cat. Oh, you think he's going to break the head off you, but he's not. Like his eyes are bulging out of his head. Drink is a big thing. Changa, like it's a big thing. Young and old, and women and all, and I got very frustrated for a while over it. And I suppose, why did I get frustrated? Why are people doing it? But it's the release from poverty.
How else are they going to survive that?
It's the release from poverty. Like.
Yeah.
To suppress the appetite.
It's the release from poverty. Like, yes, they all have mobile phones, right? But you buy a mobile phone for, say, 20, 30 euro, right? But these mobile phones get you internet, but no storage now. Like, you store 5 pictures, boom, there's nothing in it. But they can't afford the internet, like, so internet is very expensive. For me to do what I want to do, and that is just my Facebook post and bit of whatever, it cost me €60 a month. That's more than what people are earning, but then things are cheap in another way. You want to buy a bottle of Coke, like, the ones you buy in the pub, they're probably €3-4 now. I can go to the pub since I came back, but 45 shillings. Right? You remember 45 shillings is an awful lot then when it's
50 cents, is it?
Yeah. It's a lot when you consider you're getting €253 a day, so poverty is, I don't know, it's very hard to describe it. All I can say is it's so extreme. Everyone that's come out of there has seen it, have mentally and emotionally been shattered looking at these kids so happy, living in rags. They're lucky, if they're lucky. They'll have shoes made from bottles or tires or something, or old pair of shoes, no toes in them, if they're lucky. Most don't. There's a guy there, we brought over shoes the last time, we brought a container over, a fine young fella, at the time he was 10, a footballer, and couldn't get the boots to fit him. His feet are like that wide, like, huge. Can't get boots in them, like, from walking barefoot. And he's a young fella, like, don't get me wrong, he was here, without a doubt, he'd be in the Cork City Academy or something, or Cork Academy. Not saying he'd be Premiership or anything, but he has ability above the rest. Well, sure, he's no team to play on.
Tell us about the scouting story.
We sponsored this team, it's about 2 years ago now. We sponsored this team, local team, and they were going into what they call their equivalent of the Munster Senior League. Because I said, and as you're playing this Mickey Mouse League, there's no rest coming. And I'll talk now the way they talk. But we know money. I said, I'll buy your jerseys. Go. And then, of course, he comes back with, we know football. I said, Jesus, lads, you're killing me, like. Like, a football is 40, 50 euro. Like, remember Ireland when you started playing the AOL first, the football was £50. Like, geez, they're cheaper now. So look, I'll get you 2 match balls now. Like, I'll race a training ball. So we got them from. So I went down to see their second game, and very few of the locals knew who I was. Look, they just had Likela on the T-shirt, and I walk in. I give a very low profile in the public, like, and this white guy standing in the line talking to Joseph, who's the guy in the club I know. Very good English, I was grand. And next thing, the game's gone on, and no one's playing, and fellas are doing all these fancy flicks and trying to be 10 players and 20 players, thinking they're all out of this world. And during the game, the ref walks over and he goes to Joseph, like, he was talking in Swahili now, not English, so I hadn't a clue, but Joseph was translated for me. And my Swahili is very poor. Basically, he was telling him, look, they all think your man's a scout. And they're all, I can't ref the game. They're all trying to beat everyone. The game was destroyed as a game, a football match. If you were the right back, you were going up to get a goal. Like, you were the centre half.
So there's glory hunters.
Yeah, they all just saw. Even their own players, because they wouldn't have met me before, you see. And I just thought it was funny. So I had to go to the car, my van at the time, and sit in the van and watch the game. Like, in 32-degree heat, a van, one window, and, sweat pouring out of me.
They're not known for creating great footballers, are they, Kenya? They've Victor Wanyama from Tottenham and Celtic.
No, to be honest, I wouldn't be. I'm a big soccer
runners. They're big runners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, big runners. Yes,
More Farah's Kenyan than Nick.
Yeah, they'd be big runners. So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be. I'm a big soccer man locally.
Yeah.
In local Cork, or in Cork City.
Yeah.
But outside, I'd have no interest in soccer.
Yeah.
I fell into soccer by default. My brother started a team many moons ago. 2 games and he disappeared. I was left holding the baby, like. That's more. I've never kicked a soccer ball until I was 22, 23.
Yeah.
I was the rugby player on the pitch. I was a great man to take fellas out. And if you were there, if I was not deliberately, just because I couldn't play, it wasn't done intentionally. If you were there and I give you a 2-yard pass, you were getting the ball in the head and I was aiming for you, like. That was shocking, but I got years out of it, like. And I ended up coaching teams and whatever down through the years. And it was a great passion of mine, seeing kids get a game that wouldn't be playing, as I would call GA at the time, J, because J was competitive, and we were giving everyone a run. I had a team there at one stage, we won the 3rd division in Watergrass Hill. Division 6, bottom of the bottom. And we won. We won with me making sure every young fella played a full game every 3rd game. We could have lost the league over and had a couple of parents in my year and whatever, you know.
That's tough going, isn't it?
But my philosophy of the soccer was,
Yeah.
I want to make and give them a memory
Yeah.
that they'll remember, rather than, I'm a big club man rather than a team man. I said, if I can keep these guys going, they might keep the club going, because the club at junior were shocking, and they still are shocking, to be honest. But thankfully, all them kids came back this year, because there was a bit of work behind the scenes with my youngest son, who was playing with Fermoy and other teams, and he just wanted to come back and play with Watergrass Hill, because he's a big hurling man, and he couldn't commit to soccer, but he wants to play soccer. And so it got it going, and I was talking to club members who I would have known when I was there, and I said, let's give him the shot. So they created this link. They're 4 games in this year, and they have more points than they had in the last 3 seasons. Right? No, but like to them, to them, that's very bad. But the club, thank God, we've got a junior team at last for the kids to look to, and that's what I was trying to do back then, you know. But people didn't buy into my philosophy, because they all wanted Johnny to be the Premiership player and whatever, Port club, and look, that's grand, but eventually I stepped away from it because of that. He got too competitive.
I think the parents are the big they dream more than the
kids,
the kids
just want to play ball.
Yeah, they just want to have a bit of crack.
Kids just want to have a jersey.
Yeah.
It's all about inclusion, you know.
Yeah.
And I stepped away. Then, you know, my time was up. I felt after 21 years in Watergrass Hill soccer, I stepped away. Between all the different clubs now, there was 4 clubs there, if you go to the history of it. And I was involved in the 4 of them. I set up the 4 of them. So maybe I was the weak link, as I kept saying to myself. In hindsight, I wasn't. But at the time, I thought I was the problem, you know. So I said, maybe time for Derry to step out. He's involved too much. And I did. The best thing I ever did for my own kids personally, because I was in their face, involved. And the best thing for them is to grow and become adults. And even for myself, it was a growth thing, because I needed to step out of it. You know, 21 years on one thing, you need to freshen your ideas. And then, in the middle of all that, I did my dark episodes in life, so people were oblivious to it.
And what brings you back to Cork now?
Basically, my visa.
Your visa was up?
Yeah.
And are you hoping to get another visa?
I've sorted, no problem. I'm back next Monday.
All very
I had
good.
no issues.
You're going back with a container of medical goods as well.
The container is going, I'm back to seal the container. Container will follow by ship, hopefully arrive middle of October. Thankfully, the Little Island Transport, LIT as they call themselves, have covered the cost of getting it to my door. My next problem is getting it through customs, paying for that. Why are we shipping the container and we don't have the money to pay for customs? Because we need the stuff. And I'm a firm believer, if I don't put my back to the wall, I put a gun to my head, I'll never find the money. So I've been, I won't say knocking on doors since I come back, because I haven't, but I've been basically telling my friends my problems, you know, in the hope that someone might say, look, I know so-and-so, I'm going to start it out.
Do you know if people are listening or watching and wanted to help or donate some way, how can they do that?
Well, we have a PayPal account, we have a credit union account, we're a registered Irish charity.
Your website?
Yes, www.lekelaafrica.org. Our website isn't great because I manage it. Everything's done. There is no...
Is it functional?
Yes.
That's all you want.
But there is no office person. There is no... I put it, there's no one getting 30,000. Do you know what I mean? If you think about it, with 19 employees and our total expenditure is less than 100 grand a year. So that gives you an idea of what we spent. Do you know? So that's what we do. I suppose containers are very important because we have medical equipment coming out that will help us give these services to people at a nominal fee. I'm a firm believer in not giving things free. I think if I keep giving you that free, you'll never grow. But I'll give it to you so you won't starve, you won't die, but then I'll try and work with you if I can. You'll always get, which we have, a section of society who can't help themselves because of addictions and whatever, and you'll always support them. But 9 times out of 10, people just need that little bit of step up.
Yeah. Need to be responsible too.
Yeah, and sometimes we've seen it like we give a guy a job.
If you keep giving them stuff for nothing, they'll expect it for nothing, you know?
We gave a guy a job one time and Well, in, I suppose, 8 months he bought a motorbike. So now he's like
Fair
picky
play.
picky, which is like a taxi and a motorbike.
Yeah.
He's said,
Yeah,
right?
that's brilliant.
I said to him, like, you need to do something. Oh, I'm buying a bike. I never thought he would, now, to be honest. He's had to buy 2 new, better bikes since.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Just
Yeah.
needed a leg up.
He just needed that break.
Might have 100 bikes in the roads down the line. You never know.
Not getting that 250 a day, because we pay people double a fiver minimum, and that's for casuals. The rest of our lads are on very, very good money by Kenyan standards. No, not by Irish standards.
Yeah, of course.
Our least full-time employee will be on about €120.
Yeah.
No, a week, a month. Remember now they're getting €50 a month.
Doctor be on 120 a
No,
month.
our least.
At
The least.
Okay.
The doctor's on 5.
A month.
Yeah. That is what he would get in the government agency. He's getting that for seeing what, probably 1,000 patients a month. If he was in a government facility, he'd see 10,000 patients a month. So
It's madness.
he's getting good money for a very relaxed job.
Yeah.
But he's very good.
When you think of the wage structure they have over there and the cost of living, like with the diesel and stuff, there's a massive gap.
See, as tourists, you go in, right? Find a very cheap country because, number one, you don't buy petrol. It's all on your bus paid for. But if you're buying, say, food, like, we'll say, Coke, or you want to go to a restaurant, you eat out for 20, 30 euro for a couple. Jeez, that's reasonable. But what you don't realise is 20, 30 euro is nearly their wages for the month.
Yeah.
What you don't realise, the guy serving you is probably on €2, €3 for the day, not for the hour. Do you know? So when you get a tip of a 5 or a tenner, they love you. Like, as a tourist, you don't see it as a tourist because
Week's wages. Yeah. 5%.
yeah, and you don't see it as a tourist because you're brought in and brought out. We brought volunteers out this year after COVID, and they saw it and they couldn't believe. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
Like, as I mentioned, COVID there now, look, I found it very hard in COVID, being told if I came back, I couldn't go back. No, in defence of the Irish Embassy, every week I was getting an email, there's a flight there for you, Derry, there's a flight there for you, Derry, you know. No, I had to pay for it, like, but like, it wasn't like I was stuck there. It was the first time in my life I ever felt locked out of my own country because I know if I came back, I couldn't go back, you know. And I was getting these dark thoughts again in my head, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a very deep thinker at times, but thankfully, look, Mary with me, with Barbara with us, and at the time we had 3 kids, other boys living with us because we were rebuilding their lives with their parents, which are said brilliantly now they've gone home. Not for me personally, because I'm heartbroken, but for them, the family is back together, 2 families are back together, and that was our aim. And it was a very hard decision leaving go back, but they kept me busy, you know. Because one that has autism, and Sherlock, for all his faults, he's the best thing that ever happened to that. He kept me going, like, the real. So, like, they lived with us for, 2.5 years. And it came to a head in where the government agency said, oh, they must go to care. I said, they ain't going to care because care in Kenya is horrendous. Picture Ireland in the 60s, multiplied by 10 and 100 without going into specifics. They get violated in every way. And especially the poor guy with autism. And so we got him home with the parents, we worked with the families. The reason come out in Sylvester, the reason come over to Brothers. We actually rescued him one time in a house with a friend of ours who was over. But I'm back for days now, so we started from 2019, I'd say. She came over, and Mary and herself went to this house, and they heard noises. They thought it was ghosts. Finally, they decided to go back their way again, and I was with them. And we called to the house because we knew the boys lived there. This guy, this small boy with autism. We were trying to get him into a daycare, but the mother wasn't inclined. 2 boys were locked inside in the house. We burst in the door. We rang the police, and the boys said they weren't washed since the day they were born. They weren't fed in 3 or 4 days. So we brought them to the police. The health board were called out. Everyone's waiting to hand them, so he ended up in care with us temporarily. 2.5 years later, they're still in their care. And all of a sudden, someone decides to go, oh, those boys must come off them people. So they went to put me to care, and we said no. Well, Mary said no, and Mary sorted it out, so the boys were able to go back to their families. We support. So I'm Uncle Derry, which I always was, but I'm really an uncle now, supporting him with food, support, and helping the families. And being honest, have the boys personally stepped back? I was asked this question by a friend of mine yesterday. They probably have 10%, but better be back 10% than 100%.
Yeah.
And it's very hard knowing their quality of life is less now than what I was giving them. By these powers that make these decisions that I can win, as I say, you pick your battles. Our best battle is to put them with their families and support them as best as we can. Sylvester's doing okay. He doesn't have a very much of a relationship with his mother. She split him from here to here with a machete one night. He came running to us at 11 o'clock. That's how we ended up with him. And so we're building that. But he's always fearful. If the mother roars or shouts, he runs because he's fear. No, she hasn't touched him since, thankfully. But the fear is in his head, you know. So we're working with him. But he comes to us. They all come to us every second weekend and they come for holidays with us. So the reason we come out's 4, going on 5, fierce anxiety, still wakes to bed, still pulls himself, all the anxiety. We just sorted. He went home, he has anxiety again. His mother has serious mental issues. His father's a good guy, has mental issues as well, but a good guy who's doing his best. And their grandmother, who's 80 odd, works very hard to give him a quality of life. But it's heartbreaking knowing that if they were still with us, they'd be better. And I had people who were giving out to me and generally giving out to me and not happy with the decision. And I said, you tell me so what to do.
So there's nothing you can do. You did that.
And like,
good.
I won't lie, I cried. I still thankfully, Dorito every day is in our day centre. Kamau and Sylvester we bring to school every day, so I see him every day. Just to
You keep an eye on them from a distance,
not even a distance. They're still part of our family, but they just don't sleep with us.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing because you're going home to a very damp house. But saying all that, there was a Knight in Shining Armour came in, and it's another one of our projects, Rebuild a Home. We've built homes now for 6 families. We started first with mud homes. Now we're doing stone homes. And our first stone home was built by Fiona and her husband, and it's for a lady who was being sexually abused. She'd 6 kids. She's moved in there, 4 weeks? No, she still isn't outgoing, but a change in her life. It's amazing. She's at home. She's safe. And I suppose why I went to that is because there's a lady after sponsoring a home for Dorito and Kamau. It's at roof level. Now, home is 2-bedroom stone house. Now, these homes aren't insulated. A home costs about 10,000 to build, so it's not like you're looking at here 300,000. It's a standalone project. If someone sponsors a home, we build a home. If they don't, we don't build it.
What's it called again, Derry?
Rebuild a home, rebuild the life, we call it.
Rebuild the home.
Rebuild a home.
Rebuild the life.
Rebuild the life.
And if somebody listening to this wants to sponsor a home for somebody, it's onto the website again.
Yeah, and look, I call it a spade. We're building mud houses for 5,000. We stopped because mud houses, all the traditional methods, it rains, it falls down, you can't do it in budget. We've gone to stone houses, €10,000. We've gone over budget on Fiona's house by €500. Nothing. We can cover that, you know. And the boys' house, I'm hoping will come in there or thereabouts again. The other thing is cost of material has gone up, but I bought an awful lot of material. I did what I would do here, bought all the cement.
Who does the work for you then?
Local builders. We use the one builder all the time with stone, and this house, I've them on the contract, so if it takes them 3 years or 6 months, not my problem.
Well, hopefully somebody listening or watching might want to help you out and contact us. And look, we'll direct them to the website, but we're going to have to wrap it up there, Derry.
That's no problem.
It's lovely talking to you.
No
You've done great work over in West Africa.
And I suppose before you wrap it up,
East Africa, sorry.
I suppose I'll just give people one thing of all our other topics, what we do, right? Education program, 55 kids, clean water program. We have a Zeus farm training for farm, and I suppose I've mentioned the day centre. But the day centre now, to complete the full circle of education, which is very important people understand, our aim is to get kids into school, special school, they'll come back to us and we have a skill centre. Teach them a life skill. That's what we do.
Practical skill that they can use in life.
And look, as I said before I started, I could talk for hours. I haven't gone through 5% of what's in my brain, but that's me, I wander, I apologise.
That's fine, you're grand, you did well, and you spoke well, and listen, we get a good insight into what you're doing in Africa.
Come here, look. I'm not saying I do everything right.
But you do what you can.
But we do it with the right and best intentions.
Exactly.
That's all anyone can do.
Fair play, boy.
That's all I can
And
say.
that's why
And
that's why I interrupted the two of you earlier on, because I wanted people to get this full story of what you do in Africa. You know, because that was.
Yeah, and look, I suppose I came in here with a mindset to say something different. I didn't get half out.
Yeah.
That's okay. But look, if people want to contact you, www.lekalafrica.com.
We're on Facebook, from everything. I don't have a private page, it's very easy. You can't miss me. A head like that, how could you miss it?
Right, thanks, Derry.
Thank you. Thanks,
bother.
guys.
Thanks, Dale.
I'll listen to you. Asante Sana.
And hi to everybody in Watergrass Hill United.
Oh, there, yeah.
Or Celtic, is it?
No, United, you're on the
Is
ball.
it? Go on, see you
Yeah.
later.
Thank you very much.
God bless. Bye. Bye-bye.